One, two, 1, 2, ready, go.
Hey, welcome back. This is episode 4 of the Student Experience podcast that we've started here at Interactive Multimedia in Columbiana County Career and Technical Center. My name is Mr. Ash, and I have another student along with me. I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Chloe Gill. I'm a senior in IMM, and I plan on going to Bowling Green for computer science and digital arts.
That's actually one of the first questions I guess I'll ask you about. Having been in this program for a couple of years now, what's the next step for you? So you said Bowling Green. Talk a little bit about how maybe some of this helped to prepare you to get you ready for that, and then what you're going to do while you're at Bowling Green.
So my main goal is to get into the animation industry through like either illustration or animation. I hope to explore more on animation in college and 3D modeling. So the Career Center you taught me animation through Adobe Animate, and that was an interesting experience because most of the animation things that I watch are usually like hand drawn because a lot of the kids that not kids I guess, but college students are from like California, Cal Arts, and they do a lot of like hand draw animation as far as I can tell because none of them have that vector style that you usually see in ads online and stuff that we've been doing. So that was like a new experience for me because a lot of the animation that I see isn't on like the advertising side. It's more of like indie animation. So I hope to combine computer science and animation in college. And the Career Center, we haven't gotten into code that much, but being able to learn JavaScript through my AP computer science class has helped me like understand how code could interact more because over the summer I also tried doing like creative coding, which is like making animation through code, but it was like self-taught through like the coding train or something. And that was interesting because my experience is mostly like I want to be able to draw it myself. So doing the code and then watching it run and I'm like, it needs to move over, but I can't just drag it over, so I have to like figure out where in the graph I want to place it. So that was like an interesting experience over summer too.
You talked a lot about animation and things, and we know that's a focus that you have always had. When you first visited the program as a sophomore what was the first thing that kind of drew you in saying, I just definitely want to be a part of that lab?
I would say like all the equipment and stuff, that was definitely like, I don't have this sort of equipment at home. I don't know how to use this equipment, and I like to learn since it's industry equipment that I'll be using when I get into the job field. So that was a big part of it. And also being able to meet students that aren't at my school because I'm around the same kids like every day. So being able to meet new kids was a fun experience.
What advice then would you give, having been in here now for almost 2 years, to an incoming student who signed up? They're going to come in junior year. What advice do you have for them so that they can be the most successful student that they can be?
I would say if a student is trying to get into the field, when they come in here, they should have some sort of goal that they want to get through either like semester side project or just like class projects, because having that end goal is really helpful in like how much do I want to do in this field? Where do I really want to explore? Because during my junior year, I really wasn't super sure on where I wanted to go. So my semester assignment project was definitely something that interested me with like game design and stuff, but it didn't exactly pertain to what I'd actually be doing because I wouldn't be like a game designer. I would be more like a 3D modeler. So this year I focused more on what I knew that I wanted to learn and what I wanted to do in the future. So having that sort of end goal or like a career choice that you would want to be moving towards, that's definitely helpful being in this lab.
So you mentioned the semester side project. So it's a project that you create as a junior, and the ultimate goal has always been that would grow into your senior capstone. Talk a little bit about your senior capstone project, what what you're doing or what you did, and just what you created.
So my senior capstone encompasses like a lot. It's splash art, concept art of characters in isometric environments or rooms, and then also 3D models of those characters. So that exposed me to more of the character design and concept art aspect first, because I follow a lot of artists that do concept art and do animation work, and I've seen their different concept art sheets for characters and their environments. And while I didn't go super in depth with like different color palettes of characters because I had already created most of the characters that I was considering, it was still interesting to explore more of how shapes to, impact how character design works, because a lot of sharper shapes are for more aggressive, more antagonistic characters sometimes, while the rounder are for more friendly. So when I focused on the cafe art, my character was like a baker cat who was supposed to be very friendly, very welcoming to anyone who came to his cafe. So my typical style of drawing cats has very sharp edges, but since I wanted to be more friendly with it, I tried to round out the shapes to give a more mellow feel. And then when 3D modeling it, 3D modeling in Blender was definitely a challenge because I knew that a lot of the tutorials that I had seen and a lot of people that in the industry in like Supergiant Games Studio, they use ZBrush to model. And I was interested in learning ZBrush too, but I knew that you only get like a 30-day trial before you have to pay for it. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to like learn it that fast. So I just decided to stick with Blender because a lot of people recommend starting out with that because it's free. And there were definitely a lot of windows and buttons that I had no idea what to do with. So I was just like, I'm just going to get rid of these until I need them. And then a lot of the tutorials, they were very helpful, but at the same time, they were a little confusing because sometimes they just use shortcuts and not really explain what they're doing. And then I'm like, well, I know that this does what I want, but what is it actually doing? Because when I had issues with it, then I wouldn't actually understand like what should be searching for in terms of the relevancy of that shortcut, because even the shortcuts sometimes don't have names in Blender. So that was a challenge. And then in some tutorials, they would just do stuff and it worked for them. And when I did it, it did not work for me. So I was like, how do you get the vertices to stay straight when you're extruding them? So that was definitely a challenge, but I think that I'm satisfied with how it's going. I'm definitely still going to be working on that, but yeah.
We've talked a lot about software, right? What would you say? And we spent a great deal of time learning Adobe software as our main focus, right? So which of the software titles are your favorite and why?
Definitely Photoshop. Photoshop is mainly because I prefer a more painterly style compared to Illustrator. Illustrator's very good for like sharp and clean styles, but I personally like blending and more painterly styles, and I also do a lot of like, it's the most similar to Clip Studio Paint, which I had been using a couple years before coming to this lab, so I was just very familiar with how the brushes work there, and I'm more of an Illustrator type person, so I just enjoy painterly softwares.
Great. Keeping with Adobe, we go after Adobe certifications in our lab, right? What have you earned certification-wise so far?
I've earned Adobe Photoshop certification, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere Pro. Have I earned Animate? We haven't taken that test yet, have we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
Which I have a sinking suspicion that I think you'll do well on that one as well, which is good. Okay. What is, if you think about all the projects that you've worked on from junior year to senior year, what would be one or two of your most favorite projects that we did and why?
Probably from junior year, I definitely think of the album cover project because I got to illustrate that one. And that was also like one of the first projects that I actually learned digital painting, because before I really didn't delve in with like painting. I was mostly just coloring. But that was the first project where I actually tried to use more paintbrush tools like watercolor. So I got to learn how that worked, and also how to format an album, because I don't buy albums that much. So looking at all the references, that really taught me how music is developed for graphic design. I think another one would be the adaptation video projects, because I like script writing and being able to storyboard and like block out the scenes. I like being able to do that. And that was definitely one of the more intricate projects that I've done. And then I think the third one that I think of would probably be the Soup to You ad, because that was making a lot of vector pieces, and usually I don't work with vector projects all that much, but in anime it's definitely easier to use Illustrator.
So we're counting down the weeks now, right? High school career is going to be over. I've asked each person who's been on what some parting words, parting advice, or, just what would you like to kind of leave as your legacy words here for Interactive Multimedia?
That's such a hard question. Oh, God. I think just do what you love. Stick with your passions. If you're passionate about something, don't let anyone else drag you down or like tell you that you can't do it, or it's not a good idea because you don't have like all the money. If that's not a super profitable career at the time, like if you really enjoy it, just do it. You don't even have to get into the industry. You can do it on your own, freelance, if you want to. I think that's
great. Hey, thank you for being part of this podcast and your episode, and we'll get that out there. Thank you for listening. Episode 5 should be coming out here in about a week or so. And as always, if you get a chance, you like something about this, write a review, share it, follow along with us as we kind of keep developing this podcast as we grow. All right, thank you for listening.
1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go.